Okay, so we got another example here with our row reduction method. And so basically what we're doing is we're solving a matrix equation. We saw the equation, just to summarize, we saw the equation in the last section. So now we're using this idea of row reduction methods to simplify. And the first step is to create an augmented matrix. And this is a good example. I even messed up here. What I want to do is I want to make sure that everything is aligned. All the stars are aligned, so everything looks hunky-dory same. And so notice how I rewrote the equations so my x's are lined up and my y's are lined up. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to write my augmented matrix. I have -2, -1, 1, -3, divider, 7, and 14. I'm going to actually do this. Boom, boom. Here's my divider, right? And there's my matrix. So what I'm going to do is the goal, remember, write this up here, is to get 1, 0, 0, 1, divider, and that's our x and our y. Okay, so now, told you before, we want to try and go in order, and you kind of want to work, top down, so on and so forth. And this guy needs to be 1. And I can work with this by potentially dividing everything by 2, and that would make a -2, and that would work. The other thing that might work is combining another row in here. And one of the other things that we forget is we can switch any 2 rows. So that means I can take this whole row and flip-flop it here. And the reason that works is if this is my system of equations, doesn't matter which one is listed first and which one is listed second. It has no bearing. So I'm going to replace row 1 and row 2, and that's our notation. And so that's going to be our next step. I'm going to replace row 1 and row 2, and so this gives me, our matrix of, and we'll do a thick divider here. 1, -3, 14, and -2, -1, and 7. So now, once again, that thick divider. And there's our matrix. Okay, so now I can go through this process. So maybe that was something you didn't see right away because you forget that we can switch 2 rows. Maybe from here on out, go ahead and try and set it up so we get to our solution matrix. And then come on back and I'll have the steps. Okay, so now to go to our next one, what am I going to do to this one to get to the next piece? Well, I want to make this guy 0, right? So if I take row 1 and multiply it by 2 and add it with row 2, this will replace row 2. Okay, so remember, that process would make 2 times row 1 is going to be a 2 and -6, our divider, and 28. And then we're going to write in row 2 here. So we got a -2, a -1, and a 7. We're adding them together, so I get 0, -7, and 35. Okay, so now I have that. So I'm going to rewrite what we have now. 1, -3, 14. So that row 1 doesn't change, even though I used it. Okay, -7 and 35. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and shrink what we've done here and start a new line. And in order to go to the next step, now once again, our goal is to get this spot to be a 0 and this spot to be a 1. One thing I recognize is this -7 and this 35, it actually kind of works out nice because 7 goes into 35. So I can just take row 2 and multiply it by a negative 1/7, and that replaces row 2. So that's the same as dividing, right? So I wouldn't change row 1, and now row 2 is going to be 0, 1, and negative 5. And we're all set with this. And so now I can easily make that negative 3 into a 0. And I'm running out of room here, so I'm going to go ahead and push this over. And so to go to, and that's how we got here, right? And so go to our next one. I'm going to tell you right now, this ain't going to change, but I'm going to use it. I know if I take 3 times row 2, right, because I can use this to cancel this out. Multiply this 1 by 3, that cancels out the negative 3. I add that with row 1, that becomes my new row 1. So without a calculator, I would say, okay, well, 3 times 0 is 0. Add that to the 1. This ain't going to change. And now I'm going to go ahead and multiply this by 3, add to negative 3, that makes it 0. I'm going to go ahead and take this negative 5, multiply it by 3, that's negative 15, add it with 14, and that gives me a negative 1. So x is equal to negative 1, and y is equal to negative 5. Okay, so your quiz, tests, stuff like that, everything that you do by hand is going to be a 2 by 2. 3 by 3s are the ones that you will have your calculator. So there'll be some videos on how to do this using your calculator.